Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel and our 70th coffee stream. And today is Friday, which is our usual day for guests. And we actually have a guest today, the lovely Prospero058. So welcome to Skep Talk and Prospero. How are you guys doing today?
Doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. It's great to have you on, actually. It's awesome to bring some of the minions together on the coffee stream.
And how are you this fine Friday?
Oh, well, we're trying to find Christmas presents for the boys.
Nothing like preparing ahead.
Yeah,
At least you didn't put it off.
I know, right? Well, it's been hard. In the beginning of the month, Pink Hollow had some really bad weeks for driving. It was like really slow, so we were like, shit, we don't have money right now to go Christmas shopping, and I had to wait until my money came in. So that was this week because um, where I am, disability gives out their money in December before Christmas.
Yeah.
It usually comes at the end of the month,
Okay.
but they give it to you a few days before Christmas, so you can go shopping and stuff.
A few days before Christmas.
Yeah, literally a few days before, like today.
I hear you.
Well, at least they do that because it's as difficult as it is to have to do it at the 11th hour. There's money to do it with.
Yes.
You got the best gifts in the world. You got a great husband who loves you and two beautiful kids.
Oh, for sure. And we're
that's
smart.
a Merry Christmas.
We're smart about shopping too. We don't go buying like we do spoil our kids a little bit at Christmas time, but we always look for the sale items. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always
your oldest is 3 now, right?
4.
4.
Yeah.
He's really old enough for a gun. Have you looked at it to Glocks or SIGs for maybe a nice little SIG semi-automatic? With one of the smaller grips.
Well, we're gonna wait till he starts beavers first before we give him knives and guns.
With kids under 5 years old, I say go with a 9mm because there's less recoil than the 45.
Oh God.
I'm trying to be a force for good here.
Well, that's
it's responsible parenting to buy them a 9mm. A 5-year-old with a 45 that's just asking for trouble.
They don't
get scored and they're not going to practice.
They don't really have the pound for trigger pull.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah,
right.
It's not just the trigger pull, but recoil control is very poor.
Yeah, you wouldn't want wrist injuries at that age.
Exactly. Don't get them anything like a 22. Get them a real gun. Something they can really do some damage with.
Wait till they're at least 8 for that Desert Eagle. It's never too soon to start catching that skin between your thumb and your forefinger.
Why I hate revolvers. Reason number 7,521. The only thing the revolver is better than is no gun. And
oh wow.
I
really don't like revolvers.
Just a semi-automatic is a better design, and the biggest reason is speed of reloading.
Yes.
If I had to shoot, 20 Hajis who were storming my house with my Glock 19, I've got to change the magazine. I've got to change the clip out and put in a fresh thing.
The clip?
Oh, the magazine.
Yes, please. No clipazines.
The clipazines.
Well, a clip is a set of bullets that are attached together. Okay, that go inside a magazine. If you want the actual literal thing, you actually can call. And it used to be au courant to call pistol and semi-automatic magazines, which technically they are, to refer to them in slang as clips.
Yeah.
But now everybody has decided, no, it's cool to show, look how much I know about, I know. But
part of it was in response to, I believe, like the Piers Morgan, every gun was an AR-15 or a Glock.
Yeah,
because he can't differentiate.
He is absolutely insane. Piers Morgan is a nutbag on gun control. If anybody wants something entertaining, go back and look at old rants by Piers Morgan on gun control. He says some of the most ludicrous things you've ever heard in your life.
Didn't he get into it with Ted Nugent?
Yes, he did.
About gun control?
Yeah, they don't like each other.
Ted doesn't
Ted probably likes Piers more than Piers likes Ted.
Oh, I would guarantee that, because Ted, even though Ted's kind of an angry guy, he seems like somebody who'd be like, yeah, I like that guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
90%, from what I understand about Nuge, 90% of his issue is he never shuts up.
Yeah.
So he gets wound up, and somebody like Piers Morgan, who has to be the smartest guy in the room, and says, as you referenced, Skip, some of the most ludicrous things ever said about firearms.
Yes.
He's just the perfect foil for somebody like Nugent. And
good point, actually.
And Piers doesn't play well with others when he's being deadly serious.
Yeah.
And Nugent just knows how to poke a badger.
Yeah.
And Piers turns into the angry, unforgiving badger. And
it basically turns into a 14-year-old girl.
Either that or that guy, Gersh Kunstler, who wrote that lovely essay about getting PTSD from firing an AR-15.
Yeah.
Which earned him a nickname that will not be spoken at this hour of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he earned it well, because I thought, my God, man, it's a carbine and it gave you PTSD.
Right.
Wow, a critter gun.
Yeah.
Done spooked you.
Part of it, he said, that gave him the post-traumatic stress disorder was the smell of the burnt powder.
Yeah, the smoke.
The smoke. The smoke that came out. It was scary. It scared me.
Okay, people do not know. No, okay. People don't know what PTSD is anymore.
No, they don't. Yeah, when you hear somebody say, I walked down the street and a man looked at me, and I know he was looking at my rear end, as I passed. I'm triggered. I now have PTSD. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It's recreational PTSD.
Well, it is. The thing is, I had a guy on my watch session when I was on ship. He was actually my number 2. He was a chief petty officer, senior chief, bosun-mate, senior chief. And he was a great guy. He had been in special forces. He'd been one of the river rats in Vietnam.
Ugh.
And he was a real one. He wasn't, a Hollywood cowboy type like Kerry. This guy did the shit. He had to, his boat got hit, took a partial hit from an RPG. And I don't know if you know what an RPG does. It will just wreck your day. His best friend was next to him, half of him was blown away. And it pinned Chief Malone to the seat, and he was driving, he was actually steering the boat, and he had to steer the boat out of there and drive his wounded comrades out of danger to safety, pinned down by the corpse of his best friend with blood and guts all over him. Okay.
No pressure.
Chief Malone did not develop post-traumatic stress disorder. I want you to think about that for a minute.
That's a strong ass fucking man.
He was a rock. I have some great Malone stories that on maybe on Minion some night I'll haul some of those out. One in particular where he helped me against somebody, a senior officer who was kind of being a bit of a bully to me in my division, and it shows you how the chief petty officers, the Navy, they really run shit, and they can get stuff done. He was an amazing guy. My point in saying this is that PTSD descends on people who are predisposed to react deeply to things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I understand that it does happen, but it doesn't happen because somebody looks at you funny when you walk down the street.
No,
it doesn't happen because you've been microaggressed in your gender studies class, that somebody asked a question and didn't use the right pronoun for somebody. You don't get PTSD for that. Except these days you do, and you get a lawyer and you go and you claim disability and you get money for it.
I'm literally shaking.
Yes.
I'm literally shaking. I'm shaking with rage.
Yeah, that's
my money that's going into the pocket of somebody who just doesn't want to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the dismissiveness of genuine shell shock when these people do that.
Yes,
because there are people who have been what Chief Malone went through is horrifying.
Yep.
Some people are able to process, their brains work that way. They're able to process at the moment what has occurred, file it away, and not take it out and fiddle with it day after day after day till they work themselves into a state. They also sometimes know how to channel grief and rage in very positive ways instead of suppressing them.
Like, I bet you Chief Malone was pretty goddamn pissed off about losing his friend and probably used that to stay focused and get his comrades out of danger.
I knew him and knew him well for a year before he told me that story. He was not a guy who wore his heart on his sleeve. Most people were afraid of him, but in point of fact, he was tough but fair. And if you get to be a senior chief, you get to be an E8, the second highest rank an enlisted man can achieve. When you get to that level as a bosun mate, that's the toughest division on a ship. I mean, the engineers might, argue with me that stand and watch the engine room. I understand, but that it's just one of those. You don't get any more macho than that. You simply don't get any more tough, faced with tough things. Bosun mates are the ones who fire the guns. The bosun mates are the ones who make sure the anchor works and the ship is painted, and they take care of the ship, basically. To take care of the
that's what Pincolo's position was.
Yeah, he was a striker. He was a BMSN. He was an E3, and that's the enlisted rank that he achieved in his time in the Navy. And he was striking out in that toughest area to do. Striking out means beginning a career as a bosun mate. And so had he stayed in, he would have been promoted. His E4 would have been a third class bosun mate, BM3, then BM2, BM1, then BMC. Then once you're BMC, that's a chief petty officer. Then there's senior chief petty officer, which is what Malone was. And the only thing beyond that is master chief petty officer.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, Senior Chief Malone was an amazing guy. He taught me things about toughness, about what it means to accept tough times and deal with it. And he's an amazing guy, just a thoroughly wonderful human being. Had a wife and a passel of kids at home. He's a normal, loving father who was 6'5" and could bench press 400 pounds. Just one of those guys.
See, this is why I get so mad at people that claim PTSD, is because of stories like that guy.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like,
he could have retired. Yeah, they gave him the Silver Star, by the way, for his bravery in getting those men on that boat out of danger, driving down a river with people shooting at him. I mean, it's amazing that he escaped. The certificate, when you read it, it just brings tears to your eyes. What he did. Mm-hmm. That's a hero. Okay.
Yes.
Ocasio-Cortez is not a hero.
No.
People are saying she's a hero because she got elected in a heavily Democratic district that elects communists to Congress. But
she's so young. It's amazing how young she is. Oh, fuck off.
Right. Being young is being heroic. We've lost all perspective on what it means to achieve things, what it means to be good. Anyway.
There's a side of me that imagines Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the beaches of Normandy at 19 years of age, which is young by comparison.
Tapping on the ramp of the landing ship as it was advancing toward the coast. She heard the thump, thump, thump. What is that? Those are bullets hitting the ramp. Yeah. You're going to put the ramp down and you're going to march into that. Yeah, the chances of her having that much courage are slim and none, and Slim just rode out of town.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? What's the line from Army of Darkness that Bruce Campbell says? You ain't leading two things right now, Jack and shit, and Jack left town.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, she's this whole stunning and brave thing that we've got going on in our society now. It's like, well, number one, you don't know what those words mean.
Yeah.
At all, because none of this is stunning and none of it is brave.
Right.
I mean, I'm a little stunned by the amount of attention some of these
stunned
people.
Not in the way you think.
But yes. But I would say more like stunted and dull.
Yeah.
Is the case with most of the stunning and brave.
Self-possessed, completely selfish, self-oriented. Everything is internal. I want, I demand, I. There's no concept of giving, for something. I mean, people get asked, why would you serve in your military? That's just crazy. You could get hurt, and you don't have to. You're right. You're absolutely right. You either feel that call to do something and think you ought to do it, or you don't. I don't know what moves people. I was raised that, men go and serve. Period. Dot. That's the norm in my family. My grandfathers. I had one grandfather who served in both World War I and World War II as an aviator. Wow. As an aviator.
Good.
How cool is that? He was an instructor. He was an instructor in World War II. He was older then, but he flew with the. He was one of the ones who volunteered to go over and fly with the RAF.
Wow.
In World War I, and he was flying Spads and stuff like that. Then my other grandfather served in World War I. He did not serve in World War II. He got out of the Army. But my dad was 20 years in the Air Force. My son served 5 years in the Marine Corps. I served 5 years in the Navy. I have a cousin who served 7 years in the Marine Corps. We just have it all through most of our family. That's the routine. That's the norm. You are going to serve your boy child. You're going to serve in the military. It's just it's not a requirement. It's not ever spoken about. It's just, It just
It
happens.
just happens. Yeah.
It just happens because of the values that get passed down. That's the good part of my family, I think. And I don't hold it against people who haven't served. I really, truly don't. People think that veterans do, but we don't. It isn't for everybody. And believe me, having served in the military and having had to deal with some of the people who shouldn't have been there, if it's not for you, please don't serve. Please don't. Stay away. Okay, because it is a really serious thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you need people who are dedicated to doing a good job. So,
I know for a fact that if I was sighted, I still wouldn't be able to serve because I just don't, and I do not do well with rigid, routine type of, do you know what I mean? Like I
know exactly what you're saying.
I have to just kind of go with the flow of things. It kind of drives Pincalo a little crazy, right? Because he's like, why don't you just have a plan, a backup plan for things? And I'm like, because I just don't. I just go with the flow of things. And
that's fine. You're a free spirit. Your strengths are creativity and intelligence and introspection.
And I don't do well with being told what to do.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Well, and in fairness, that was something I had to overcome within myself. I'm not a natural pick for the military. Not with my rebellious personality. Are you kidding me? Nobody told me that it was a good idea to be cooking acid when I was in college. I came to that idea all by myself. Thanks. And so, when people found, in fact, this is kind of fun. When people found out in like 1975 that I had enlisted in 1974 and had been picked up for OCS, they just went, "What?"
You?
Yeah. They would say my name and say, "Are you kidding me? In the Navy?" I revisited my. I had some temporary additional duty at Great Lakes when I was I'd been out in the fleet for I think about 6 months. So it was about a year and a half into my 5 years, and so being in Chicago, I got to visit Northwestern on my off time, go by the fraternity house, and there were still some guys there who I knew. They'd been freshmen when I graduated, and they were seniors now, or I guess juniors now. Anyway, got to talking with them, and they just said nobody could believe it when we heard that you'd gone into the military, and to shake them up, I actually showed up in uniform. and with the dress blues with the stripe on the sleeve and the whole shot.
That's awesome.
It looked good too because I just made JG. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so I had the 1.5 stripes. I looked like a Greyhound bus driver. Anyway, how do you go on? I'm sorry, I don't mean to turn the Blind Press coffee stream into Skeptalk tells sea stories, and we have a guest with us. Although our guest today, I think it would be fair to say, Blind, is a friend of ours.
I would say so.
And we have, how many hours have we spent on my show? Before this, the three of us streaming, we've spent a lot of time together.
Oh yeah,
I'd say so.
So yeah, Prospero is no stranger to any of this. So Prospero, 5 years ago, did you think you'd be doing TV shows?
No.
Essentially, what this is TV show outside the MSM.
No, not at all. Never. It never would have crossed my mind because I very rarely ever watched anything on YouTube.
So I'm very gently trying to nudge the discussion over to the fact that this kind of a grouping, I mean, Prospero lives in. I'm not doxing you by saying the name of the state where you live. Right?
No,
You live somewhere in the great Commonwealth of Virginia, and Lines lives in Ontario in Canada, and I live in Texas. Now, where would two lasses and a lad from those three places have a chance to get together, share ideas, and become friends before the internet? That's what I love about the internet, is that it's shuffling the deck of ideas and getting people together who wouldn't have otherwise gotten together. I would have never known Farzuzmi or Platty or Hammer or Reject or any of those folks. You know, they live all over the place. They live in Australia and Pennsylvania, and you know, I never would have run into those people. The internet makes that possible.
Well, and especially because, like, I mean, people would say, you know, oh, pen pals, but when one of the people doesn't read writing and the other two doesn't read Braille, there would be no way of us connecting really.
That's
before
right.
The internet.
That said, my Braille skills are coming along.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You start to learn some things about Braille. I don't mean to segue off into this, but you know, like the first third of the alphabet is all in one part of the symbol map. You don't have to worry about the bottom part.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And so I'm to the point, and I practice everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I look for the Braille and try and read it. So I don't know why I'm doing that. I just away. Well, I guess because we're friends, and it's another area where we can connect on with me just, you know, putting in a little bit of effort. And plus it's I like knowing stuff just for the sake of knowing it. I mean, I'm addicted to knowledge. I wish I was addicted to wisdom. That's what Prospero's addicted to. Kids, don't be like Skep. Be like Prospero. If you're listening to the podcast, be like Prospero, because she's the one who picked up the. Wait, how would you describe your education? A classical liberal arts education?
More or less, with very little emphasis on the classics, as it was designated in the old days. I'd never studied Latin, never studied Greek. Was not in that sense of a classical liberal arts education. But right. Yeah, I was a generalist.
Yes,
with a concentration in my major. But
yeah. And you majored in history, is that what I remember?
Yes.
Okay. But history as a major for you didn't have any qualifier on it. Like, you didn't major in American history, you didn't major in European history. You majored in history generally. What I'm driving towards is they're offering majors now in more and more isolated areas. Like, now you can major in the history of the hummingbird.
Right.
Kind of thing. Is anything to get somebody in there and paying tuition.
The history of the women's movement.
Right. Oh, you're not kidding. That is legit women's history.
That would be a history studies degree.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, the use of studies now is
prevalent. A softener.
Yeah, it's so you would functionally be studying history with a tad of sociology and anthropology tossed in, and you'd get a Russian studies degree or that kind of thing. But no, mine was, I concentrated naturally out of affinity to European, but that was not, I took courses outside of that.
Sure. You know, the I forgot what the point I was going to make, but in figuring out, you know, what you're going to major in and so forth, one of the things that occurred to me, because when I bailed on majoring in chemistry, I was not going to take physical chemistry. I just didn't want to take. I had to take 2 more math courses to get qualified to take it. You have to take that to get a major in chemistry. I just didn't want to go down that road. It was frankly too much work.
Did you know a lot of pre-med people?
Oh, I was.
PChem drove almost all of them crazy.
Well,
they hated it.
It's not a requirement for pre-med. I mean, virtually nobody. Less than probably 0.1% of the people who go into medical school have taken PChem. They have to take organic. It was
required at my college. They had to take PChem if they were pre-med.
Well, I mean,
and it could be because MCV wanted it.
PChem, at least at Northwestern, requires 2 years of differential equations before you can take the course. I mean, you basically have to be a math major. And most of the people who take PChem will have a math minor. It's a extremely difficult course. It is all, it's less chemistry than it is nuclear engineering.
Yeah, I think that was probably what was driving these people crazy, because most of them were biology majors.
Well, yeah.
And so they were taking, organic chemistry was one thing.
Sure, organic it's cookbook. That's cooking.
But PChem was driving them crazy.
Most people wash out on organic in pre-med, if you really want to know the truth. They pick up Morrison and Boyd and look in the just inside the margin, just inside the front cover, and they see that bunch of equations and oxidation reduction reactions and affinity reactions on the left-hand side, and they just go, nope, I'm not taking this. That looks too hard.
Yeah, see, all this talk about math and stuff, and my eyes are twitching.
Okay, no,
I'm like, because
we're making the blind lady's eyes twitch.
I'm a languages person.
Yes.
If I hadn't have, I truly think that if I hadn't have gotten into that car accident in 2012, I probably would have graduated from university.
Tell us the story of that car accident.
So I was going, oddly enough, to take my German exam that day. Okay. And where I lived was at the corner of a huge intersection. I mean, like 6 lanes of traffic. And the people that drove around that area drove all the time like morons. And at the time of this accident, the amount of what's called auditory positioning systems,
yes,
were very low in my city.
Probably you did. Tell us what auditory.
So an auditory positioning system is a thing that you install onto a street light that when you push and hold, you have to push and hold the button for 5 seconds to activate it, so that when the light turns green for the pedestrians, it makes an audible noise, like a beeping noise, to tell you that it is in fact green for you and that you may cross.
Gotcha.
Now, at the time of this accident, I think there was about 10% of the street lighted intersections in my city that had those, and that particular intersection did not have one. Now, when a blind person crosses a street without an auditory positioning system, they are taught to listen to the traffic. So obviously, traffic that is perpendicular to you or going right in front of you will tell you that it is a red light for you and you cannot cross.
Okay.
And the traffic that is parallel to you or going on whatever side that happens to be facing either your left or your right side. In this case, it was on my right side. that will tell you when that traffic is moving, that it is a green light for you. Don't get me started on advanced greens. I fucking hate them.
Okay.
I
don't know what those are, but
the flashing green lights that I guess you guys don't have advanced greens in Texas.
No. So that's like you can go if it's clear.
You can. An advanced green will allow people in the far lanes on the other side of the road to turn.
Oh,
okay.
It's like right on red.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, gotcha.
So this particular intersection did not have one of those. It was just a straight red, green.
Gotcha.
So I was listening for my traffic, and it was time for me to cross. So I started crossing. Now the thing about this light was it was really short. Like it was stupidly short a pedestrian crossing time. Like whether you were blind or not, it was changing to red when you were halfway across the street. So it was a stupidly short time, and I'm crossing. There's a car that's stopped at the red light for him, waiting for me to cross, right?
Yeah.
And this car from behind him is coming down. There's a hill that leads to this intersection. And they're coming down this hill at full tilt, full driving speed. And I hear
because they're so smart.
Yes. And I hear a honk, right?
Yeah.
And the honk was the car that was stopped, probably honking at the guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Yeah.
But it freaked me out because it was sudden.
Yeah.
And I stopped to see what was going on.
Okay.
For like a tenth of a second. And then I continued to walk on. But before I could move a couple of steps, I got hit.
You got hit by the car.
Yeah.
Now which car hit you?
The stopped car.
Okay, so this other car was timing the light, was probably timing the light to just go into the intersection exactly as it changed. And you were there. There was a stopped car between you and the car that was moving irresponsibly.
Yes.
And he hit the stopped car, and the stopped car in turn hit you.
Yes.
Okay, that's bad.
I fell.
Yeah.
And
which is normal when you get hit by a car. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Had I not all I knew was don't let your head hit that pavement, because I had fallen very close to the moving green light traffic.
Yeah.
Right? I
understand. Yeah, you were afraid,
I freaking jumped up and jumped onto the island, because there's an island in the middle of this intersection.
Right. So there you were on the island.
Yeah. And both cars are now pulled over, and they ain't going nowhere. The car that hit the stopped car is done.
It's totaled.
It's totaled. It's done. And so you gave the guy too much credit, Skep, by the way, because he gets out of the car and he says this before the police show up, of course, changes his story. Yeah.
I'm charitable that way.
But so this is what he says before the police showed up. He goes, "I'm so sorry. I looked up and bam." So what was he looking at?
Yeah. I looked up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so the police come. My adrenaline's going full tilt, so I stupidly sign off and say I don't need an ambulance. And I get the police officer to take me to my apartment, which, I could have walked back, I was that close.
Yeah.
But the police officer insisted he drive me to the doors of my apartment.
Yeah.
And I explained to him, I explained to him exactly how what I did with you, how a blind person knows when to cross the street.
Yeah.
Because I knew the light had to have changed by now. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I knew that it would look like I had been crossing against the red.
Against the light, right?
So I specifically made sure to explain how a blind person knows when it's time to cross. There was a newspaper article, and at the end, like I guess they'd asked the police for comment, and they go, "We have decided not to charge her with jaywalking."
Oh, for crap's sakes!
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Huh.
So they were thinking
I'm
of
blown
charging me
away.
with jaywalking.
After careful deliberation. Really?
How nice of
Jaywalking.
them.
Yeah, really. Got a lot of goddamn gall there, officer.
Jesus.
Man.
So
I don't know what to say. That's just appalling.
So after that, I was really I tried to keep going to university because I obviously I was, there, right? And I was enrolled and, but I was just my anxiety was huge every time I tried to go out and travel. And then in the summertime, I was going to do online courses.
Yeah.
I was going to do online, continue my Spanish. But the online portal was inaccessible to screen readers. And the accessibility department for my university, whose job it was to facilitate and make sure that things were accessible to me, was basically like, oh, well,
that's in their name.
Yeah. They're like, oh, well, there's nothing you can do, so you're going to have to drop that course.
Sweet. Thanks for playing.
So I ended up, I'm like, well, what the fuck do I do? So I tried to do Soc 101.
Yeah.
And that drove me insane because it was so hypocritical and so...
Oh, it was just a lefty screed, right?
Yeah. So I basically, I passed the course, but that
is such a shame.
And I found out that I couldn't, it was so stupid. I found out after I enrolled, because I had applied for what's called OSAP, Ontario Student Assistance Program. They help you with your tuition.
Yeah.
So I had applied for OSAP during my winter semester when I was taking more courses. And at first had been told that the sociology course would also be would be covered. But then I was told, oh, well, because you had to drop your Spanish course and you're only taking the sociology course, one course is not enough to be covered under OSAP. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me this before? I could have dropped it. Now it's too late for me to drop it. If I drop it, I still have to pay.
Lovely.
So I may as well just fucking take it now.
Prospero, I don't know how you feel about this, but
bureaucrats.
Well, yeah, in a first sociology course, you should be studying the founders of sociology. You should be studying Weber and Durkheim, and even Marx. For that, the rationalism and the elective affinities stuff.
Our textbook had half a chapter on those people.
Really?
Yeah,
are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Weber, especially of the three, and Durkheim, I think, refined his ideas, but Weber laid out basically all the interesting parts of sociology. I think you can read Weber and then you can consider sociology done. Everything else is just case examples of the principles that he outlined about multiple causality and, you know, the role of religion in society and stuff like that. He wrote authoritative texts on all of that stuff. And the little bit he didn't cover was covered by Durkheim. Marx can be read for, you know, this is bad sociology. Don't do this. That's how you get way ahead in the hindsight race is to read Marx and find out what bad sociology is. But there's so much bad sociology that's been written since, and that's what masquerades as what really ought to be a great field, but it's not. It's just a bunch of politically correct lefty shouters. I find that very
frustrating. Sent a news article for us to read because I wanted to see what Prospero thought about it. He sent it to your DM, Skep.
Oh, okay. Hang on one sec. Let me to my DM on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on. We're doing in Call of the Driving Ape Man. That's the news article. Go ahead and read it. Just try to say blind instead of your name. Let's see.
That's this. Yeah, that's the news article.
Kitchener woman wants audible changes to traffic signals. Okay, and the Kitchener woman is blind, and that's you. Yeah. This is about you.
Yeah.
And there you are. You know, you're hot. Neither here nor there. I'm just saying, you know, for anybody who's out there. A blind woman struck by a car at a Kitchener intersection on Monday wants to make regional intersections safer. Blankety Blank was crossing West Mount Road at Victoria Street South on her way to a German test at Wilfrid Laurier. Oops, shit. I'm sorry, I should not have done that. Well,
that's fine.
We know that's in Kitchener.
Okay, that's true.
That kind of got established thanks to recent events.
I already blew it. When she was hit by a car that had been rear-ended by another, Barkley walked away with bumps and bruises, but she thinks it might have never happened if the intersection had an auditory crossing signal, a beep that rings when the walk sign changes so she can hear when it's safe to cross the street. I have had this discussion quite a lot. That's not how there's not enough auditory lights, said Barkley, who lives.
Oh wait, you're saying my name.
I'm sorry.
It's all good, dude.
God damn it. Not enough auditory lights, said Smith, who lives in an apartment near the intersection and takes the bus to Laurier for class. Smith said she can count the auditory lights she's used on both hands, but there are 49 installed around the region. 4 more are scheduled for installation in 2012. There are 480 signalized intersections throughout the region. The auditory signals are sporadically spaced throughout the region, she said, and it's really just fucking dangerous. Smith previously worked, I added the expletive there. Smith previously worked through the Canadian National Institute for the Blind to have the region install an auditory light during her father's home in blankety blank. The process took 6 to 8 months. Unfortunately, the region really drags its feet in implementing them. They're just a bunch of assholes, she said. She believes every major intersection and crosswalk should install the lights just as they're required to have dropped curves to accommodate mobility devices, but she doesn't think they need to be in really quiet areas where traffic is easy to hear. Respectfully, I'm going to disagree with you there. If you're going to do it. Just make it a standard part of the traffic light package. It's actually less expensive to do that for all of them, believe it or not, because of economies achieved when you don't have 2 classes of traffic light. Yeah. they cost more than $10,000 to upgrade a standard four-way intersection, and that's not including graft payments to labor unions. But Smith thinks installing them at more intersections is an investment in accessibility, safety, and our aging population. What's that you say? A lot more seniors are living past their vision, she said. That's true. You can outlive your eyes, especially with if you got something like diabetes or so, diabetic retinopathy is a thing. And
even macular degeneration can mess up somebody's central field
Sure.
of vision enough that they would have trouble
Right.
seeing the lights.
Yeah, retinitis pigmentosa. I mean, there's so many things that can happen to take your vision away from you. Don't think this can't happen to you. Don't think you can't be living this life. And so forth. He goes on and on. Blank has been fully blind since she was 6 months old when a viral illness forced doctors to remove her right eye entirely and the retina from her left. She's been trained to cross intersections using her ears to, quote, see and quote the cars around her, but when it's busy or raining, like it was Monday morning, it can be hard to differentiate between sounds. Why does rain make it hard to differentiate between sounds, Mrs. Smith?
Because especially when there are puddles, when a car splashes through a puddle, it distorts its sound profile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say also tire hiss.
Yeah.
On wet pavement, because it would be a lot harder to figure out where all the hissing's coming from, and splushing and that.
I gotcha.
And rain, if it's raining hard enough and you're carrying an umbrella, then you've got your own sound bubble from the rain on the umbrella.
Gotcha. Waterloo Regional Police spokesperson Olaf Heinzel said no charges would be laid in the incident as Barclay crossed against a green light.
Damn
However,
it,
stop it.
Oh, did I say that again? God damn it.
Pincalo's gonna edit the stream, he says.
He's gonna fucking kill me. I'm sorry, Pincalo. God. I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith. I don't know why I'm trying to focus on reading clearly and enunciating, and I'm just reading each word almost without recognizing the word. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also trying to throw in a little bit of a funny thing here and there. And between that, I slipped a couple of times. I'm so sorry. That is just unacceptable. I really am sorry. That's not hard. I should have been more careful. Anyway, he also said they won't be charging her with jaywalking. Are you kidding?
Wasn't that nice of him?
We'll be charging her with jaywalking.
Oh, God.
Basically because people would be marching on the police station with pitchforks and torches demanding to lynch the chief.
Pincalo says there's something neat about this article. Ever since it was posted, the Audible Light coverage has gone up to about 70%, and he's not wrong.
Yeah. I'm going to flip this to Prospero, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But we're not, I'm not going to put it in chat, obviously, because even though I've done a fine job of doxing you already, there's no reason to make it that freaking easy. So I'm going to just flip this to Prospero really quick. And I'm using Twitter, Prospero.
Okay, thank you.
God damn it. I'm so old and
don't worry, we aren't
fucking
here.
Fool. Fucking idiot.
Robert Burke says, I told you he was going to put himself in the corner.
God. Yeah. I need to go put myself in the corner. I'm too old to live. Clearly. I can't believe I made that simple mistake. Anyway, I need to get past that. I need to get off my neck. But at least we can edit for that. I don't think anybody's going to chase you down. You haven't been. You're not obnoxious like I am. Anybody, if you want to come back after somebody, come after Frank Mancy. Yeah.
What is this? The doxing stream?
Fucking Midlothian, Texas. Come on, bring it, bitches.
I should change the title of the stream
The
to the
doxing.
fucking doxing stream.
Fucking come over to my house and kick my door in. You'll get a warm welcome. I'll be glad
You'll
to
be
see
licked to death by puppies.
you. Yeah, well, at least your corpse will.
He wasn't kidding about the Glock people.
Yeah, I'm really not. You know, I've got several guns to choose from, and I would choose quickly and appropriately. I actually keep one right here, right next to the.
If you give me a head start, I might be able to bring Thunder Puppy to you.
Absolutely.
What's Thunder Puppy? Do I want to know?
It's a Mossberg 12 gauge.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is something that you would absolutely adore shooting blind, because shotguns are point and pull.
Well, and they're so satisfying to shoot.
Oh yes, they are. I can't shoulder the thing because even though the kick really isn't that bad, it's just my arm length is not right. So it actually
is that a 12 gauge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can put it, and this absolutely drove a friend of mine crazy when I said this. I can tuck it under my arm and fire it from that position and hit center mass just fine.
Yep.
Because I can steady and adjust aim that way. We took that to the range with a friend of ours, and we never tattered the target to the point that it fell. But when we brought the target back, because we just started blasting randomly at the target.
Or you shooting slugs?
No.
You shooting like buckshot or
Yeah.
birdshot or what?
It was buckshot.
What, double aught?
I think so. I didn't load it. Okay. My husband did.
All right, I'm just curious.
He was just passing it around because we were having way too much fun.
Yeah, when you're shooting something like triple aught buckshot, you know, the kick is so hard, you know, because you have to put so much powder in there to get the.
It was
triple aught buck is like the size of small marbles.
It could have been birdshot because, the tatting of the target. I mean, what we brought back looked like a spider web.
That sounds like birdshot to me too.
Finely tatted lace.
That sounds like birdshot.
It was glorious because it became a game of trying to hit all of the target.
How long's the barrel?
Oh God!
I would love to shoot my grandmother's. My grandmother has a shotgun that's an over-under.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a
fine design.
22 and a fucking, what gauge is it?
They usually pair the 22s with a 410.
I believe that's what it is.
That's almost certainly what it is. It could be a 10 gauge, but it's more likely a 410.
Yeah, my husband had the Mossberg and went trap shooting with some folks from his office.
Don't let Chaos Eve hear that.
And then
he's sensitive about that.
sporting clay shooting, and then
I didn't know what you meant.
And then it was funny because there's a good sized Boy Scout campus nearby.
Yeah,
not the old one in AP Hill, but another one. And so they have the crisscross, the rabbits, all the things for sporting clays.
Yeah.
And he liked it, but he ended up getting an over-under also. So it was just it became a joke for a while that if we ever, there's a restaurant attached to our Bass Pro Shop, the nearest one, and they've changed their menu since, but we used to go up there and eat quite frequently because they had outstandingly good catfish. But 5 times in a row when we went to Bass Pro Shop, we ended up with a gun.
Yeah.
And only one of those was bought at another gun shop that was on the way home from the Bass Pro Shop. That was the over-under. But it was like, I told him, I said, this is turning into an extremely expensive lunch. Because every bloody time we go, it's something else. It's like my 9mm, his 1911. It's just.
I love a 1911. That was the first handgun I ever shot was 1911, and I've loved them ever since.
It's so funny because
that's a 45, by the way, blind.
We've got incredibly lazy guns. They just lay around. None of them have independently gone off and done a single wrong thing. Yet.
But they could get right up and shoot somebody because guns are the problem, not people.
That's right. And my screwdrivers have not stabbed anyone either. And I'm a little disappointed in how indifferent they seem to be.
Yeah, talk about the important.
There's a show, a cartoon that done by Seth MacFarlane called American Dad. And there's an episode where they talk about guns. And his daughter is this crazy left-wing liberal, and she goes, "Guns kill people." And he goes, "Oh, really?" And he takes out his gun and he puts it on the table. And he goes, "Go ahead, gun. Kill someone. Don't be scared. It's okay."
A guy who used to service our pool, his father-in-law lives in New Jersey and was real anti-gun and was visiting and was all upset because he had weapons and, oh, guns kill, guns kill. And he said, "All right, I'll make a bet with the old man." And he did basically the same thing. He took his 38 out and set it on the kitchen table. He said, "Let's go shopping." And off they went, and he came back and he said, "God damn, look at it. It's still sitting there."
Just it hadn't gotten up and shot anybody, really?
No, it hadn't. And he said it's amazing. He said, I don't even have to lock it in a cabinet, and it'll just stay where I put it.
Whoa. Man, it's either a well-trained gun or it just has absolutely no initiative at all.
I think it's lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. That's tragic.
Yeah, and there's a K-bar somewhere in this house that
how many people has it stabbed by itself?
Oddly enough, we just have shiftless tools in this house.
That's the tragedy of
incredibly disappointing.
It is. It's absolutely horrifying.
They just don't give a shift. They're shiftless.
Except the TSA has managed to relieve my husband from about 5 or 6 of those teeny tiny little pocket knives. The itty bitty ones with a blade that is an inch long.
Yeah.
For the knife part, and those scary scissors.
Yeah. I have a scissors story. I'm so glad you said that. I want to share this with everybody on who's listening to the stream. I was a consultant. I used to fly all over the United States, actually all over the world, to consult on network design and workflow systems design. And I was consulting with the state of Michigan there in Detroit, and had to go into that part of what they did was actually housed in the federal building, even though it was a state agency that I was working with. And so I had to go into the federal building. And so they go through everything in your computer bag. And in there was a tiny pair of scissors, the kind of thing that you would have in an office, but they're very small. The scissor blade was probably 2.5 inches long. And they said, "You can't take those in there." And I said, "Why not? It's a weapon." And I said, "That's an office building. Do you know how many pairs of scissors are in that office building?" She said, I don't care. She and there was like this, she was enjoying it. You could see, Mr. Executive, and I got some power now, and I'm gonna ride this all the way home. I said, "Would you please get your supervisor?" She said, "No, give me those scissors and move along." And I said, "I'm not going to give you the scissors. Go get your supervisor." The supervisor came in, and she was just a bigger, fatter version of the lady who had stopped me. And she said, "No, we don't allow scissors. You can't bring those in the building." And I said, "They're scissors. The building is filled with scissors. It's rife with scissors. You can smell the scissor smell out. Okay. There's so many fucking scissors in this building." And she said, "I'm about to call the police." And I said, "Because I want to bring scissors into an office building? Is that the best best use of police time. She said, move along, give her the scissors, or exit the building. I exited the building. And I called the people up there, and I said, I can't get into the building. Why? I have scissors in my computer bag, and I've been stopped, and I won't part with the scissors. And so they said, can't you just go along and get along? And I said, no, this is absurd, and so forth. Pass it up the line. Anyway, make a long story short, eventually someone got contacted. And they said, go up to the lady. And this time there was a different lady there. And she said, just come with me. And I was escorted inside, but I couldn't leave the building and come back in with the scissors. They asked that I not do that again. I didn't get to have lunch that day, darn it. But it was, there's so much absurdity, so much dumb stuff about control. When you do crazy shit like trying to control weapons instead of prevail upon people, that killing people and stabbing them and shooting them is a bad idea, and making sure that you do such a good job with that it never happens or close to never happens, then absurd things like that happen. And the other thing was, my bill out rate was $473 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so when you hired me from Avaya Communications to come in and troubleshoot your stuff, you'd gone through 2 layers of specialists before you got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the most senior. I was a principal consultant. That is the most senior consultant in the company. I was effectively an engineer on site.
Right.
And they got to pay for 2 hours of me sitting cooling my heels in the lobby in front of the security station, because they wouldn't let me in with a pair of scissors into an office building.
They watch too much MacGyver.
Yeah, exactly. MacGyver could make scissors out of spaghetti.
Paper clips, chewing gum, and
exactly.
and some cellophane from a cigarette pack.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You were really going to get a drop on somebody with those scissors buried in the bottom of your computer bag. No, hold on just a second while I get my scissors.
Oh my God.
Where are they now? I knew they were here a minute ago. Rifle.
I know, that's God, that is short bus principle right there.
That's exactly what that was. That was a short bus lady too. She was, clearly and she was enjoying, this person is a different race than I am, and I am just going to enjoy myself.
I bet she was a hall monitor.
Yeah, that's basically what she was for it professionally. Essentially a hall monitor.
I'm going to tell the principal on you.
Okay. That's it. You can't go there. Ha ha ha. I am powerful. So anyway.
You might fringe something.
What's that?
Somebody in chat said you might fringe something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Imagine picking pinking shears in there. No.
You should have run holding the scissors, says Goatman.
Goatman. Thank you, Goatman.
You'll never take these from me.
Wilson. Okay, mate. You got a license for those scissors? Very good.
I mean, I swear to God, I'd have used my time outside the building to go try to find some hedge trimmers.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about more in terms of a chainsaw, but same idea. But what is that? It's a chainsaw. Well, I say it's you can't bring that in here. Why not? It's just a chainsaw.
Yeah, I figured if you were afraid of the scissors, I would bring you something to actually be afraid of.
Absolutely.
Can I borrow some gas, please?
Yeah.
I would love to go in there and just like with a gray lump of like lead ingot, melted, that has been melted and is cool now, just a regular sinker weight of lead, and tell them it's plutonium.
Yes.
And I said, this is actually plutonium. It's very dangerous. You don't want to touch it. If you touch it, you'll probably die. Okay. And you're being irradiated right now. But, you might want to call your supervisor. That would be just.
If you're going to go to prison, you might as well go to prison with a smile on your face.
Exactly. Or just tell them, I don't know what this is. It may be plutonium. It's very dense. It's very heavy.
There was a redheaded woman with an oddly Slavic accent in the elevator next to me in the hotel, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah, she handed it to me and said, "Could I watch it for a few hours?" Oh me, yeah. What was that from? Not Day of the Jackal, but one of his. Anyway, one of those spy novels. Yeah, can you watch the plutonium for me for a few hours? Yeah. So anyway, let's see. It's 10:12. It's not quite. Well, we stay in tune with chat so much. We don't really have a time, Prospero, when we go to the to chat to ask them what's up and so forth. I just wondered if anything had raised its head that you had seen recently in the last couple of days that you think is absurd or fun or funny or serious or anything, and any stuff in the news. If any, since you're on this morning, would love to hear what you have to say.
Actually, beyond the whole PayPal may done have stunk up the room.
What they do this time?
Well, it's the YouTuber Law did his entire live stream Tuesday evening on Patreon and PayPal, and that PayPal acted against Subscribestar when Subscribestar was such a small, almost unnoticeable platform, except for the attention it was getting with the Sargon kerfuffle. And when PayPal acted against Subscribestar, he said that's when it began to look like group boycott, which is antitrust violation.
Yeah.
Whereas before it would be ruled as parallel action. This person is objectionable. They use objectionable language, yada, yada. And so that would be why you'd get these cascading bans where Facebook and then Twitter and then Patreon might act against a creator. But it was unnecessary for PayPal to bop Patreon. I mean, Subscribestar. Because there was next to no content on it.
Right.
So there was nothing there
to protect.
Right. And Tim Pool interviewed the guy that does YouTuber Law and followed up with it and said, well, because PayPal has a subscription service itself, PayPal is in competition to some extent with Patreon, but not enough because that's not the bread and butter of PayPal.
Right.
But PayPal is about 70% of the US market for credit card transactions. And it's in
PayPal is?
Yes. And it's about 60% worldwide.
Wow.
PayPal is
that big.
Who owns? Well, I mean, that makes them a multi-trillion-dollar corporation.
They're kind of as he said, they're a bit of what would be considered a natural monopoly in the market. They have competition, Stripe, and there's a smaller one that I didn't catch the name because I was totally unfamiliar with it. PayPal and Stripe were the only two I was familiar with, and Stripe has a much smaller share of the market, but the two of them, Stripe and PayPal, make up about 90% of the market.
Wow.
With PayPal carrying now, as he said, if the FTC looks into this, they may find upstream that all of this is coming from MasterCard and Visa. Now, MasterCard, I know, had been probably one of the louder squawkers. It was MasterCard that got Robert Spencer yeeted.
PayPal backs 60%.
More than 60%.
Of the credit card transactions in the United States.
In the world. It's closer to 70% in the United States.
I had no idea. I'm so blown away by that fact.
That's insane.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they've created a monster.
Yeah, that's not just a monster. That's a monster's monster.
And wasn't Elon Musk on the ground floor of developing PayPal?
I forget.
I think he or Peter Thiel or both may have been involved in it. They certainly got their money out of it. But
they may have. You don't really know.
Yeah, they're in that regard.
It's easy to sell too early when you get a winner.
PayPal is more exposed, perhaps now, than they were because it makes no sense. This connection. And now Tim Pool has his conspiracy theory. He said, look, if I'm going to put on my conspiracy theory hat, the person who's in charge of trust and safety at Patreon, who did work for PayPal 8 years ago, started something that's having a very negative cascade effect. There are now accounts there within their top 5 that are making noises about getting off the platform. Sam Harris very publicly.
He was their, what, 12th largest?
13th largest.
13th largest, something.
The guy who he's got 1 million subscribers, and he does, I think he does like woodworking channel.
Yeah, yeah.
But it turns out he was a patron of Sargon's.
Interesting.
And so it's why he told all of his subscribers to get off Patreon.
Interesting.
And he's got 1 million subscribers. How many of them are engaged with Patreon? It's hard to say. But there has been another one in the top 5. But also Tim did some digging. And there are, of course, podcasts that routinely use very racially charged language.
Are you kidding? Really?
That are still quite prominent on Patreon.
Racially charged?
Yes.
Is this from the left? The left doesn't use racially charged language. The rap stars, the rap lyrics are clean.
Well, that was one of the things he was, the questions Bering was asking Sargon that yesterday on the Incredible Salt Mine. He said, are rap stars going to be in trouble for this?
Yeah, because they're well-spoken and reserved.
And it's the notion that context was not viewed, and also not understanding that the British really are a little bit more out there when it comes to being ironic.
Yeah.
so
ironic. Stupid. Yeah.
And being ironic when you've lost your temper, care of constant harassment, would escape them. They wouldn't. They don't care what the circumstances are.
Right.
That's basically what they've told Sargon. But I'll be interested to see, since the whole Rubin Peterson intellectual dark web crowd apparently have been talking about this for a long time. And Peterson has had people working on developing a platform. He was very specific that they started months ago doing this because he saw the handwriting on the wall. And he said, we're trying to get it up. He said it could be a week, it could be within a month. Be patient. And he said it will not be complete because he said we'll have to consider it a beta.
Right.
But the sooner we get this thing up and going, the better. Now, I don't know how they intend to process payments. I don't know how they intend to get around if MasterCard and Visa are being the snippy ones. Now, maybe they're looking at bank to bank.
Maybe.
Or maybe they have found a credit card issuer.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Who's principled.
That's what I think they are going to do, is quietly use a credit card issue, because the credit card issue is going to be motivated by greed.
Yes.
And so if they can do that kind of on the quiet as a background, as a back end, be the back end for the processing part. That's the part. You're quite right. That's the part they need to fill in. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's that will be interesting to see, because I think a lot of people are watching this. It's gotten into the mainstream, not just through Sam Harris, but at least for conservative press readers. Ben Garrison did an editorial cartoon of Patreon
And
pushing
he is great, by the way.
pushing Sargon off a raft.
Mm-hmm.
While there's the rope wrapped around Sargon is tied around the ankle of Patreon.
Mm.
And PewDiePie gave him a shout out yesterday about this whole Patreon thing. So PewDiePie has 77 million subscribers now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of
4 million, 4 million people had seen it by the time I saw the video.
Wow.
So that's kind of a thunderclap of there's an issue going on here. And, somebody said a naughty word, and out came the Salem witch trial people. It's a weird space now because of how, yes, corporations have free speech and they can disassociate at will. We just have established law in the United States that they have that right of freedom of association.
Yeah, but
when you have a monopoly, acting in concert with a competitor to a platform, that's a different matter.
Yes,
well, just against the rules. That's all.
Yeah, it's not necessarily per se illegal, but if it would be enough to make the FTC start asking questions and demand correspondence and communication.
Yeah.
And if that correspondence and communication has been disappeared, then the FTC usually gets very unhappy.
Yeah. And since it's a bank, it falls under Fed oversight as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was why he said it's time to get the federal government interested in this business, because where does it stop? That's the problem. Where does it stop? They find out they don't like your politics. PayPal refuses to let you have access to their site when you go online shopping. How far do they intend to carry this freedom of association thing?
Yeah.
To the point that it is, because I had asked when the live stream was going on if tortious interference could play a role, and he said not likely, but it's possible that it's there. And I mean, I would say, I'm wondering whether these YouTubers who are accepting payments from subscribers, what if they incorporated? Then it would make it a business-to-business transaction, conceivably.
Yeah.
The dealing with a credit card company. And wouldn't it make it more of a sticky wicket from tortious interference? Because they would be bad-mouthing a business in order to impact it financially.
Here's the problem. You're using some very general law terms, which you have to characterize what the problem is, potentially. And there's not enough law, not enough legislation precedent out there to know how the courts are going to treat this stuff.
Well, right, because general claims of parallel action get chucked out on the lower level because a judge looks at it and says, free speech issue, I'm not touching it.
Right, exactly.
But when you have that's why he was saying that lawsuits are ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's why you need to bring the eye of federal regulators, because they're operating in a different sphere. It may go to court at some point if the federal regulators believe the law has been violated.
Right.
And there is a need for recompense somewhere down the line, Or they might just use the power of the federal government to coerce.
Oh, that's always good.
Well, that's one of the points of antitrust to some extent, is to be able to let someone know that they're under scrutiny and that they're going to remain under scrutiny for a sizable period of time. Also, the fines are enormous. The kinds of fines that, if it were found that that Patreon and PayPal were in league against Subscribestar, the fines would put Patreon out of business. Patreon's not that big of a company, and they would significantly damage PayPal because they're huge.
Yeah.
And then if they were found in violation, and then if there were cascading suits against them, they'd be done.
Yeah.
Because the attachment on antitrust is a trebling of damages.
Well, we probably can't get it solved here, but I think it's a fertile legal area. It'll get fleshed out.
It makes me salivate.
Well, we'll see. The other thing that may happen is that if the entry barriers into that business are not as high as like building a steel plant,
right.
If you get the people with the right knowledge in the right jobs, you can build an organization to compete with PayPal. And I think that's doable and probably is being done now.
I think that's what Peterson's been doing. I think he's been networking his ass off. And
I agree.
If he has made any connection with people who are richer than Croesus, the Teals, the Musks, and Musk doesn't always go for the easy thing, a limited release run of flamethrowers.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing that for profit. He was doing that for shits and giggles and kind of raising a middle finger to the world. Watch this. So he's unpredictable in that regard. Yeah. He's the kind of person who's likely to say, hey, I've started PayPal and they've lost the plot. So I'm just going to start another one.
Right. Yeah.
What's it called? Opinionated Scotsman says MasterCard and Visa have been blocking payments already.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Vortex says Patreon is bleeding already. Lots of people are leaving.
I hope they are.
Yeah. Well, Vortex makes actually a pretty good point. It says if the Fed looks into a company that large, they may find even more fun stuff. Yes, I think they would. I think you would find lots of non-compliance, lots of finable stuff. But that's a secondary point. But we can kick this around and speculate on this. There was, if you don't mind, I'd just like to bring it up because I'd like to get some reactions from you guys to this, and that is that Trump seems willing and like he's gonna pull out of Syria.
Well, and I think he campaigned on.
I think he's going to pull out of Afghanistan too.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
He signaled yesterday that he's going strong on troop reduction in Afghanistan, which I think is the exit strategy. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Congress gutlessly did not declare war at any point, anywhere.
No.
And it's the executive has the right to say, okay, you gutless wonders wouldn't declare war. I'm sick and tired of letters having to leave this building to people who have lost loved ones.
Yeah. We spent enough blood and treasure in Afghanistan, I think.
It's a lost cause. Let Pakistan sort that shit out.
Right, exactly. Let others bloody themselves on that awful situation. I'm sorry that it's a mess, but it's a mess.
We can provide Pakistan aid to hunt if they so choose.
Yeah.
And there are bigger fish to fry in that region. And the whole thing with Syria is nonsensical.
I don't think anyone in their right mind in the Middle East is going to go after Syria with Assad still there.
People were saying that Iran is going to move into the power vacuum.
It's not.
What I said yesterday. Yeah, I disagree. I don't think that there's a chance of that happening. Like Iran has given up on that. They're well invested in Lebanon, and that's where they're going to make their play from. But does anybody else think that anybody but Assad is going to fill the vacuum that we leave behind in Syria?
No.
Who else is going to do it? Can ISIS suddenly reconstitute itself?
No.
Can it suddenly grow 5,000 radicals that have been killed in the course of this conflict and make itself big again? I don't see that happening. They just don't have the manpower.
Where are they going to recruit from?
Right, exactly.
You have that many forlorn causes.
Right.
It's just not.
Hezbollah saw the handwriting on the wall. I don't think they're going to, unless somebody just was handing them Syria on a plate, which I don't think Assad will do.
Putin won't let that happen.
That's a very interesting point. How will he enforce that?
He likes showing off military might.
Yes, he does.
And
I think all Russians do, to be fair.
Assad is a ally, client state, basically.
Yeah.
And
putative.
It's a good way for Putin can't stand radical Islam. He's been hard as nails.
Which I love.
Yeah. He's just been absolutely hard as nails. You kill a Russian, I kill 100 of you.
Right.
It's the Chicago way. But he also needs to keep Turkey in check because Turkey's a wild card.
Turkey is rapidly Islamicizing.
Yes, and that's the last goddamn thing. See, that's why Syria is so important to Putin.
Yeah.
If Turkey Islamicizes the Bosporus, the Dardanelles,
will close,
and he can't get out of the Black Sea, so he has no Mediterranean access.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Syria gives him Mediterranean access, and it gives him a frontier with Turkey, two frontiers with Turkey.
Yep.
And that,
but it's the access to the Mediterranean. I think is the big thing.
I think it is too.
Russia has always had a thing about wanting warm water ports.
Mm-hmm. That was the whole Crimean War.
That's exactly. I was just going to say the war in Crimea. Exactly.
and so the
it's funny
getting in the way of. I don't think from a realpolitik position it matters to us if he has access to the Mediterranean.
Hell no.
The U.S. Navy, even as hobbled as everybody likes to say it is now.
Yeah, we're real hobbled.
Yeah. If you consider the Indian Navy is actually a pretty decent Navy for a country at India's state of development.
Absolutely.
The British Navy is still a functioning entity. The U.S. Navy, if you add those three forces together, merely those, we're not even going to toss in all the rest of the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
They engirdle the globe, and they outweigh Russia and China combined by a force of 3.
That's absolutely true. Russia has 3 aircraft carriers. None of them can sail because there's too much shit that's broken. China has 1, and it has too much shit that's broken. They haven't figured out how to operate their aircraft carriers. Operating aircraft carriers is tricky, by the way. It's not easy. Don't try it at home.
Well, and the U.S. has kind of surplus of aircraft carriers.
Yes, we do. We cut them into razor blades when we're finished with them.
And the but the nice thing is the British have one now, and the British certainly can fly off of ours.
Oh yeah,
and so that's not. And Yes,
Brits have a different philosophy on aircraft carriers. Their aircraft carriers are more nimble. They're fast.
Yes.
They're nimble. They get in. They get out. They are. It's more like guerrilla warfare. Whereas what we basically what we're bringing is an Air Force base.
Yeah, it's a floating city,
right?
And it's a different thing. It's more of a base of operations in a region.
Yeah.
And the British are it is the more nimble, which is fine. If you have both of those in complement to each other, it's it's why our battleships aren't around anymore.
Right, because
they were aircraft carriers took their place.
Yep.
As well as they weren't as nimble as smaller vessels. And we have guided missile cruisers. We have
that's the other thing.
Comfortable number of boomers out there.
But that's the interesting thing that you're talking about. Always submarines is a whole different conversation. But the interesting thing that you're talking about with respect to the British is the British are not flying air superiority airplanes off of their aircraft carriers. They're flying combat support bombers, basically attack aircraft instead of fighters.
Yeah,
interesting.
Which again is a very nice compliment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The U.S. has no peer in flying combat air patrol. No peer. When we make the skies ours, the skies are ours. There is no air superiority. We have no air superiority pure, so we can control all that. And then Britain can come in with their dandy little carriers, full of munitions, chock full of munitions. They'd be totally safe, and they can fly. What are the tornadoes and stuff? The equivalent of RA-6s. Off of them, and they're really efficient at delivering a whole bunch of to the enemy. The U.S. and UN with in naval and air superiority are just unbeatable.
Well, it's why they're such an important ally to us, and it's one of the reasons why it should matter to people in the United States that Brexit occur.
Yes.
Now, also, Britain also has nuclear submarines.
Yay!
We all live in a nuclear submarine. Sorry.
Well, that's something that came up in a chat talk with someone was saying, well, the Chinese have subs. And I was like, what era? I mean, it's leftover Russian shit from 1950s.
Right. They have. That's exactly what it is. It's Russian Yankee class stuff from 1958. The keels were laid for those ships, for those boats, actually. And yeah, they're garbage. They're noisy and dangerous.
Yeah, the China's being a pest in the Philippine Sea. Yeah. They're just being a pest. They're doing it to be a nuisance, and it's part of their whole face-saving game.
Yep.
It's like when the Russians decide to buzz one of our aircraft. It's just that's to make Vladimir go. It's like Dutch ovening your partner.
Yeah.
Right.
It's it's just
they would never they would never spot on radar the F-22 that came up and back and killed it from 80 miles away.
Right, which is
with a Phoenix up their ass.
Yeah, and the thing is that pestering is going to cause a problem at some point. I prefer they not do it, because what if their pilot just isn't that good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, China's Navy is not strong. Jean is quite correct in saying that. And yes, we know exactly where the Chinese are. Their Chinese subs are. Our used to be a secret thing. The SOSUS reports that we get, which are basically listing devices we have all over the floor of the ocean, all over the world. Yes, we did that. We did that. We can tell where your shit is.
Yeah, that's why we have always known pretty much where the Russians were,
Yeah.
which is why they haven't been dickheads with their subs.
No.
There's no point in their doing that.
After the Scorpion incident,
they know full well that's a waste, and it would be rather miserable to try to explain, because Russia's no longer a closed society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a delicate oligarchical balancing trick that Putin's managing now.
Yeah.
It's not the old Soviet Union where information did not get out. So Putin's not an idiot. He's a jackass, but he's not an idiot.
Yeah.
Should we allow Japan to militarize? I thought they had a military.
They have a little bit of a military. They're actually making their own fighters now. They actually build their own fighter.
Well, they have a civilian. What do they call it? The Civilian Defense Force, or what? It's a and
like an guard kind of thing. They have a little bit of a force. If they militarize, they will build a very good one, and it will mostly be homegrown, and which is the way Japan likes to do that.
They've signaled. I mean, at least their leadership has signaled that they would be willing to. But I think that also was part of the delicate and indelicate negotiations with North Korea, because they've been both delicate and indelicate. The Japanese talking about maybe it's time we militarize, and the U.S. not going, God, no, is a bit of a signal.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trump going, hey, I got a bigger button.
Yeah.
Yeah, putz.
Yeah. He does have a big button, though.
Yeah, well, he does. And
I mean, it's not a boast if it's true. So,
I don't. Do you think? Okay, because is this true? Can you tell me if this is true? Because I've heard that the only reason that the bombs were dropped onto Japan is because of a miscommunication.
No.
That's bullshit. That's absolute crap. You want to take it, Prospero?
It was because we didn't want to fight a guerrilla war for 20 years.
Yeah, and we didn't want to lose 500,000 men
and killed 5 million Japanese.
Right, and that would have been a minimal figure. In fact, 500,000 dead. 500,000 dead Americans would have been getting off light. Some people said it would be closer to 1 million people killed in taking Japan the way that we did, and that's purely
Allied death.
Yeah.
That says nothing about what would have happened to the Japanese.
Yeah, Japan would have essentially been gutted. I mean, essentially all of their people would have been killed. No, that was a very carefully deliberated action. There was no miscommunication. I
don't mean like miscommunication from the Allies. I mean like someone.
That Japan was trying to give up, and
that Japan said we surrender, and
that's been around for a long time now. That's garbage.
Yeah, that's another face save attempt. They had 2 days. They had 2 damn days after Hiroshima.
Yeah, if you want the details, here are the details of what really happened. The emperor wanted to sue for peace. He was scared shitless about the Americans invading Japan and basically raping their way across Japan. He was freaked. But there were a bunch of assholes on his council, on the ruling council, that really makes all the decisions.
Tojo
was not. He actually could have been persuaded to sue for peace, except he had to placate the
warmongers.
The warmongers, basically. That's exactly what they were on the council, and so did the emperor. The emperor is only the emperor as long as they let him be emperor. If you take my meaning,
yes.
And so he felt like he had to be okay with them, and it was very carefully done after Nagasaki. When the reports came back and they reported in front of these warmongers that Nagasaki stopped existing. There used to be a city there. Now there's not a city there. There's a ring of huddled survivors dying of radiation disease on the outside of the city. The rest of the city is gone. It's not damaged. It's gone. It's gone.
It's been evaporated.
And that was when he said, "Okay, we have to do the unthinkable. We have to bear the unbearable." If you remember the exact words that he used, and he told them that he would be interested in entering an agreement to stop hostilities with the Allies. MacArthur wanted a more comprehensive and humiliating statement from the Emperor, and Truman overruled him. He said, "No, you will take that and run with it. Let's get this show on the road." Mm-hmm. And the other thing that MacArthur was pissed that he had not been in on what was going on with the nuclear weapons at the time. He had not been fully briefed about, how many they had, how many were in the pipeline, so forth. He thought there were 5 or 6 more ready to roll. Mm. In fact, when they dropped Fat Man, they dropped the last one in the inventory, and they were looking at least a month to 2 months before they could put together another bomb. Mm-hmm. So it would have been a bad thing if Japan had not done that. It was providential that they accepted the Americans' offer for peace.
Yeah, it's providential, but after you functionally evaporate 2 cities,
there were a lot of guys who were still, no, let's take this all down. Every Japanese must die. We will all die honorably rather than turn over our Japan.
Well, that's why the calculations were so high, because Tarawa taught us that.
Yeah, well, Tarawa and Okinawa and
Tarawa taught
Saipan and
taught people a lot of lessons, though, because I can't remember what the force reduction on the Japanese was, but it was something like a couple of 100 guys were left. You talk about fighting to the last man.
Oh yeah.
It was insane.
They only took 100 prisoners in Okinawa.
Yeah, the tragedy of Okinawa was the suicides.
Oh yeah, the women jumping off the cliffs with their babies in their arms.
Because they'd been propagandized to the point. The
Americans are going to come in and eat your living flesh.
Yep. I remember hearing a Japanese, Okinawanese fellow who had been a child in one of the caves, and the Red Devil was coming, and he said, and then I met the Red Devil, and the Red Devil was crying because of all the death and all the children that were dead, and all the Red Devil did was try to take care of me. Mm-hmm. And he said it was such like to a 7-year-old, it was that moment that they understood they'd been propagandized into being terrified of other human beings. They look mostly like me. Mm-hmm. They walk, they talk, they behave normally.
Almost like they were humans.
Yeah. And it's that the isolation of Okinawa it was just hideously tragic and so utterly unnecessary, but
agreed.
It's the restraint that was used, given what had occurred in the war in the Pacific, that,
oh my God,
that the second example of evaporating a city wasn't Tokyo.
Mm. That was providential too, actually.
Yeah.
And why was that?
Well, there were a couple things in play. First of all, Tokyo is physically a very large city, much, much larger than Hiroshima or Nagasaki. So you're only going to nail a portion of it.
Okay.
Second thing is, if you take the center of town out, effectively, Japan doesn't have anybody in authority anymore who's alive. There's nobody to deal with in suing for peace. So they thought that some of these other places would be better, or but Tokyo was on the target list, but they were very careful about where they were going to put the bomb.
Okay.
And so it would, you're talking about something that kills 200,000 people in an instant. In the case of Hiroshima, and 80,000, 60 to 80,000, I think, for Nagasaki. That's instantaneous death. That's death in 1 second after detonation.
That's craziness.
Yeah, it kills a lot of people very quickly.
I remember Harlan Ellison had said, then we upped the game to the hydrogen bomb.
Yeah,
and
we've never used a hydrogen bomb.
Well, he said it's one of the most horrifying toys that humankind has never taken out and played with.
Yeah,
in part because of what happened in Japan. We saw what the atomic could do.
Yeah,
and we were able to do the exponential calculation on the hydrogen bomb, and decided, look, it's a wonderful deterrent, but only an insane person, and even an insane person would think, meh, I don't think so.
Well, do you know the story of the Tsar bomb?
No.
It's the largest nuclear device ever detonated on Earth. It was they call it the Tsar bomb, or the bomb of the Tsar. And it was detonated by Russia at 40 megatons, 40 million tons of TNT. It was a hydrogen bomb. Whoa. And you can dial those up or down by controlling the amount of deuterium that gets the atomic, the first part, the first stage of the hydrogen bomb reflected into. They wanted to, the guys at headquarters at the Kremlin wanted to blow it up at the full 50 megaton, but they realized that the plane couldn't get away, that the crew would be incinerated by that, and so they dialed it back to only come out at 40 megatons. The plane was still badly damaged and barely managed to land. And
where did they detonate it?
Up in I think it was Kamchatka. I think it was either Kamchatka or it was way up, like near the Arctic Circle in some northern, far northern part of Russia. I think that's actually where it was. It may not have been Kamchatka, but it was near there. So you're talking about far eastern Russia, where basically nobody lives.
So basically, the atom bomb, as the toy analogy, it's like that thing where it's like that toy that you get as a present, and it does something that you go, whoa, I don't ever want to see that again.
Yeah. No, this was a bomb that is 3,000 times the size of the Hiroshima bomb.
That's
3,000 times the size. Okay, and it's really hot. It's really nasty.
John asked about the bomb that kills people and doesn't destroy buildings. That was the neutron.
The neutron device.
I've always thought K Street would be a good place to test it.
the kill the lobbyists.
That or Paris.
Yeah,
there are alternate Thursdays where I think Paris might be.
Get the Louvre. That's the problem.
Have all the curators be up at the Rijksmuseum, looking at the restoration of the Night Watch.
Absolutely.
And then do it.
The neutron bomb has the capability of its blast radius is rather small, typically, but its yield of neutrons, which are very slippery. Neutrons are the particle, it's about the same size as a proton, but it has no charge, which means it's neither attracted to electrons nor protons. And so it tends to go through things and just damage the crap out of them. And neutron radiation is just among the scariest thing to get hit by, because it just turns you into mush, turns you into jelly inside.
Yeah, it's an unpleasant weapon.
And it goes through the walls. Okay, so it doesn't destroy the buildings. It just destroys the people, but it leaves the building standing. That's it's easy to, and they're easy to build. They're on a low yield weapon. You can get a lot of kill out of it and still leave virtually all of the infrastructure in place. So, yeah.
Well,
that's a happy note.
I was going to say, on that cheerful note.
On that war sciences note, I think since it's almost noon.
Oh my God! Look at that. We did this for 2 hours.
We did.
This is fun.
It certainly didn't seem that long. But...
Prospero, you're an awesome guest, don't you think, Blinds?
I think that was a great discussion.
Well, thank you. I agree. We've had a lot of fun on my show on Wednesdays, and these two are regulars on my show. And
we don't run out of things to talk about.
No, we don't.
I think we never do. Again,
I would agree.
Yeah. So but it being that time, thank you, chat, for being there. Hanging in there. There's 18 now, but at one point there were like 29 or 30 people watching the stream.
Skep's turning into monkey, if you've noticed.
Well, I just like to address them.
I know.
I don't take them for granted, just like I don't take you guys for granted. I really appreciate that somebody wants to come out and listen to us ramble on for a couple of hours. It's wonderful. I thank you, and we value what you have to say. So I'll just put that out there.
Well, and thank you, like Skep said, thank you for coming out. Thank you to Prospero for coming on and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it was awesome, and be sure to tune in tomorrow night, because Star Trek's back.
Right, and we're going to be discussing.
We're discussing Future's End, and it's gonna be me and Skep and Hammer and Polydub. And since Unholy Mole didn't get to come on last week, we're going to invite him on as our guest. And we will be talking about Future's End. And it's going to be a fun time. And then be sure to tune in on Sunday for Blind in the Special on the Blind in the Special channel at 10 p.m. Eastern for some more fun Soul Calibur 6 action. We are going to be doing, as far as I know, a coffee stream on Monday, but not Tuesday. Because I will be doing Christmas with the boys and such like. And I don't know about Skep, but I'm sure he will be doing Christmas with his family.
Oh yeah.
So I think we'll be taking a break on Christmas. But we'll be keeping you guys up to date for the holiday schedule on Twitter. So be sure to check that out.
We'll have it out there, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have an amazing day and a good weekend. And we'll see you back here on Monday morning. Have a great day. Stay safe out there, guys.
Be careful out there, guys.